Good evening, everyone. This is the last meeting of the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association in 2021. It is our annual meeting, so we will be electing board members and appointing officers and doing some other housekeeping. But first, we are going to begin with our guest speaker, Albany Police Chief Eric Hawkins. Chief Hawkins, to you.
All right, well, thank you, John, and good evening, everybody. And I tell you, we're into November here, almost Thanksgiving. I mean, where did the year go? I mean, just kind of flew by on us, didn't it? But pleasure to be here with you this evening. I know you have a long agenda, you have a lot to talk about, and so I'll be brief with my introductory comments, and I'll just talk about a few things, and then I'll use the remainder of my time to answer any questions that anybody has about police operations. But again, pleasure to be here. Glad to see everybody here. And I'll just jump right into it, and I just talk about some of the issues that we're seeing in the police department, some of the plans that we have moving forward for public safety for the city, and some things that give me reasons for optimism as it pertains to public safety in the city as we move forward. But the major thing that we're dealing with right now is that thing that most of you have heard about, and that's our police staffing issue. And right now we're budgeted for 342 sworn police officers, and we have, I believe it's 55 vacancies at this point. So we have a very aggressive hiring plan that we put in place, and we put a plan in place that allows us to accelerate our hiring over what we've done in the past. And so typically what we do is, our police academies, we have our own internal academy, and the academy usually goes for about 6 months. And so we'll put a class in, let that class go for 6 months. And then when that class was over, we'll start another class at that point. Well, we figured out that we had an opportunity to accelerate that process. And so now every 4 months, we're going to start a new police academy class. And so we just started a class a couple of weeks ago, a class of 29 recruits. And in March of 2022, we'll start another class. And then 4 months after that, another, and then 4 months after that, another. And so we're looking to have somewhere right around the same amount of recruits in each one of those classes. So even accounting for natural attrition that we'll see in our place, people retiring, cops and firefighters, they come on board, they work for 20 years and they retire, they take a pension and they sometimes go get jobs someplace else. And so it's typical. And so we account for that natural attrition, and, sometimes they go get jobs in other places that pay more, or they're closer to home and things like that. And so even with that, I'm very, very confident that this time next year, we should be in a very, very good place where we should be either at full staffing or very, very close to it. So then we can start really fully optimizing the opportunities and the potential of this police department. Hiring is difficult. It's just like in other industries, whether it's, we've got a shortage of school bus drivers, a shortage of nurses, you name it, you name the industry, and there's a shortage of workers. And so it's no different with police and with our dispatchers as well. But again, we're very aggressive, proactive in our recruiting efforts in order to get some people in here, and I'm very confident moving forward that we'll get this police department fully staffed in the very near future. I want to talk about a program, though, that we just started, and this kind of ties in with our police academy curriculum. And it's called Community Liaison Partnership Program. And what that is essentially is a program that allows our residents in this community to help us train our police officers. And this idea came about from a program that we have in place right now called T3C3, and that stands for Time to Talk, Cops and Community Collaborating. And so we have usually once or twice a month, we have our police officers who sit in a room with residents of this community, and they just talk about issues. It's unfiltered conversation. Get a chance to really talk. Officers aren't in uniform. So we really get a chance to kind of let our hair down and let our guards down and kind of talk about some issues. And so out of those meetings came the idea of why not allow our residents in this community to be a part of training these cops, and letting these officers know, these recruits know from the very outset, when they're in the police, from the first day they step into the police academy, to know that community policing and engaging with the community is just as important as driving a car or jumping over a fence or firearms training or learning the law. We want them to know that they've got to get to know the people in this community at the very outset. That's just as important as everything else. And so this program is being coordinated through our ACPAC. And ACPAC members are going to be providing us with members of the community from all of the wards. And every recruit, once a week, will be cycling through every ward in the city. And they'll be interacting, for an hour a day when they're out there with residents in our community, with our regular community members, and learning about the community, learning about the people who are in our communities. They're learning more about the city, getting an appreciation for why people in this community want our police officers to be more engaging and to have some heightened and sharpened interpersonal communication skills. And so this is really going to change the game for us, because typically in policing, we wait until officers are out of the academy and they have 1 or 2 years on the force before they really start to get into the community policing aspect of law enforcement. Well, this is going to give them that ethic, that community policing ethic at the very outset of their careers when they're in the academy learning. So we're very, very excited about that. I'm sure if you guys have any questions about that later, I'll be glad to answer that. Another thing is, when we're talking crime trends in our community, we hear about some of the violent crimes that we've seen in our community over the last year and a half or so. And we've had those. We're seeing some progress with our violent crimes. Our numbers are trending down in a significant way. We're taking a lot of guns off the streets. We're making a lot of arrests of violent individuals. We're sending a message. One violent crime or one shooting or one homicide is one too many. So we're not waving a flag of success by any means with this, but the message to the community that I try to get out whenever I can is that we're seeing some significant progress. We've got to give our community hope with this issue that we're seeing. This is a very, very dark issue. It's one that really makes people feel unsafe, makes them feel as if there's this sense of lawlessness in a sense at some point. But we've got to get some facts out there, all of the facts. And the facts are that, yes, we have seen some violence, some very unsettling violence in our community, but we've also seen a lot of progress in addressing that violence that we're seeing. And so we've got to get that message out there as well. But one of the things that we're seeing that's actually trending up, and that's given us some cause for concern outside of the violent crime that we're seeing, is some of the property crimes. And we're seeing that with motor vehicle thefts and with larcenies from motor vehicles, they're really starting to trend up. And so we're going to start a campaign. It's called Lock It Up Campaign. And we're going to be giving out these brochures to motorists who leave their vehicles running unattended. And this is going to be, for the first couple of weeks of this campaign, an education and awareness campaign. We want people to just be aware that this is a problem. This is something that's, we're seeing an increase in these vehicles being stolen and items being stolen from vehicles. And we want people to understand that, it's very simple. Let's lock up our vehicles. Let's not leave them running when we run into the corner stores. We've seen instances where adults would leave a vehicle running unattended with the doors unlocked with children inside. And so it's very, very dangerous. So you'll hear a little bit more about this as the weeks move forward, but we're going to be starting this campaign. We want people to lock it up. And we're going to be putting these on cars when we see them and giving them some education and awareness with this campaign. And again, we talked about the crime trends that we're seeing in the city. As we start to repopulate our department, we'll start to be able to put more officers in conjunction with our beat officers out there, and have more officers walking the beats with our beat officers, and we'll be able to start doing a whole lot more things. And so, I want to be quick with this because I wanted to leave some time, because I know that you guys have a very large agenda tonight and you have limited time. And so I'm going to end there and take any questions that anybody may have about anything that I talked about or anything outside of that. So thank you, John.
Thanks so much, Chief Hawkins. Questions, Leah?
Hi, Chief.
Leah.
So great to see you.
Hi, Leah. Good to see you. Yeah.
Yeah. So really exciting about everything good that you said, from the aggressive hiring to the T3, C3 to even, I did see something on social media today about the Lock It Up campaign, and I think that's really an innovative, it's a new strategy, and I really like it. I am really particularly thrilled with the T3, C3, and I think it's going to be great. And I know that I have signed up for it. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to participate because of the timing, but we definitely have a lot of interest among people that I've spoken to. So that's really great. And also Sergeant Peterson and our beat officer, Aquaviva, have been really amazing at reaching out to us. So just wanted you to know that, and also informing us about it. I am a little disappointed, as I have expressed to both the sergeant and Officer Aquaviva, that the times of the meetings are really during the workday. They start mostly at 4 p.m. on Fridays, and I work until 4:30, and so it makes it difficult. I'm sure I'll be able to take a couple of times off so I can at least meet some of the new recruits. But I think it's just a really great new program, and and I'm sure it will grow and over time. But this first year, this first session will be like a learning experience, and I think it'll be good. So, we have people coming tomorrow to our ward, our ward, which is not, Pine Hills neighborhood has like 5 or 6 wards in it, but I'm sure they're going to all the wards within Pine Hills neighborhood. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know my concern about the timing, if there's any way that could change. I know it's an overtime issue, and so I certainly understand that you have to be careful with your overtime budget. But it would allow more people to participate if we are able to have more meetings after like 5 p.m. or later. So that's it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. And we talked about that yesterday. And so what we determined is that after this year, then we're going to build in something into this program to allow some more flexibility in terms of the time that the recruits are actually out and about, so that they can be out later in the evening. This first year, we didn't anticipate that so much, and it was really because it's just like you said, because those recruits are in the academy. This program had to be integrated into their normal academy curriculum, and that academy curriculum goes from 8 to 4 o'clock or 9 to 5 or whatever it is, just traditional business hours. And so they built it into that time. And once we started hearing the concerns that you just raised, then we realized that there's an opportunity to have some flexibility in that, and to kind of build it out a little bit where they can be out and about later in the evening. So you'll see some changes next year with that program. But thank you for raising that concern.
Carolyn Keefe, I see, has a hand up.
Hi, Chief. Thank you so much
Hi.
for joining us. I have a number of questions that I'm going to just start with. One basic one. I know that the DEA has put out a call concerning the so much fentanyl on the streets in street drugs, and I know that University at Albany recently held a Narcan training, and that it is possible to have trainings of up to 300 people. I think they're arranged through the state. I don't know what office, but is that something that APD would be interested in either supporting or coordinating, maybe ACPAC, to get more people trained in using Narcan? So that was one of my questions. I have a couple of others, but I'm going to let other people ask questions first. So, thank you.
Yes, to answer that question, absolutely. We're interested now. And if you couldn't, maybe offline, maybe through John, if you can send me the information that you have regarding that, and I'll make sure I get that to our people. But we're working very closely with the DEA and some of the other federal agencies that are dealing with this, and state and and county agencies as well. And we're always interested in partnering with any either a law enforcement agency or a community group or educational institution that are addressing that issue. So absolutely get it to John, and I'll have somebody look into it. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Are you seeing an increase in overdoses as it in the same rate as the rest of the country, or are we maybe, how are we doing with that?
Yes, we are seeing an increase, and most of those overdoses are being tracked through the fire department. So I don't have the exact statistics with me, but just from some of the meetings that we've had with the fire department, it's clear that we are seeing some increases in overdoses.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perry, I think you had a question.
Hi, Chief Hawkins. Perry John Jules from the Albany Damien Center. So glad to see you tonight. And I just do want to thank Carolyn for her question on the Narcan. We have definitely seen an increase in overdoses at the Albany Damien Center and have everybody trained in Narcan right now. So absolutely, we'd be interested, Carolyn, if we can help at all as well with the APD. But I have a comment and then maybe a follow-up question. We've, with COVID, in addition to the increases in overdoses, we've been seeing an incredible increase in the mental health issues that have been coming forward in the community, especially, at the Albany Damien Center. I have to tell you, really, you have to commend the force. When I see them come in, the way they respond to a mental health situation has just been extraordinary. And I've been doing this for a very long time. So I just want to please extend that to the force. They are really incredible when they come in. The way they are interacting with persons who are having a mental health issue is truly amazing. And I guess that's my question, they obviously are trained. Do you provide initial training, ongoing training for mental health responses? Because it shows.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll convey that sentiment to the officers. I appreciate that. And yes, they get training in the academy at the very outset. So they get the crisis intervention training at the very outset, but not only with individuals who have mental health issues, but just a whole range of issues, some who are on the autism spectrum and some of those things as well. And so it's a very comprehensive training to give these officers an awareness of some of the issues that some of these individuals may be having, some of the stressors that they may be having. And they have an appreciation for that. And ongoing, we also provide it as well. There are a number of schools that are available once the officers are out of the academy, and when we give them an opportunity to attend those schools as well. But yeah, I think I'm glad to hear that that it's showing in the community, because we invest a lot in terms of training with mental health issues and some of the other issues that our people in our community may be having. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy?
Thank you. I just haven't had an opportunity previously to thank the chief for this liaison initiative. And I myself am looking forward to meeting 2 recruits tomorrow night at the library and walking our neighborhood. And Mr. Peterson has been, and I don't know, I'm saying Mr. Peterson, is he commander or a sergeant?
The sergeant.
All right. He's been great in terms of, follow up and connecting and keeping it informal, but making sure that things are going to work. And he said he's going to be looking forward to some feedback. And I just look forward to the experience, and I have a little bit of a plan, and we'll see if I keep it within the hour.
Okay. Glad to hear it. Thank you.
Chief, I have a question, if I may. I want to say, first of all, we were very pleased with the response from you and the department and Mayor Shee and the rest of the city departments when dangerous disturbing parties re-erupted on Hudson Avenue. So that was very positive. At the time we walked around the neighborhood, it was about the parties, but there are also some issues with some of the merchants in the area, some that felt threatened by the parties, but there's one store in particular that has been a notorious problem for selling alcohol to minors. They deal primarily in things that, convenience things that are convenience for people, say, partying. And there was also stabbing in there. So at the time you and the mayor were walking with us, there was talk of invoking some of the emergency powers such as those that have been used with Cafe Hollywood. I wonder if you had a time to reflect on that and if that might still be appropriate, because we still have situations going on in that particular store.
Yes, absolutely, John. We're assessing and evaluating all of our establishments in the city. And we learned a lot with Cafe Hollywood, obviously. And so we have a little bit more information. We have a little bit more experience in dealing with this. And since Cafe Hollywood, we have not exercised that, but we certainly have that as a tool moving forward.
Thank you. It continues to be an issue what to do with sort of continually notorious nuisance properties, whether they be businesses or housing. So
Well,
we
but
are
let
appreciative of the steps taken.
me just add too, John, and this is for members of the community. You know, one thing that helps us out, we learned, is that when there are issues that are occurring and members of the community are seeing those, it's important that we get those complaints, and it's important that they're reported so that we have this documentation as we move forward. Because one of the key things that the SLA and even when we're in the actual process that they're looking for is some sort of substantive link or nexus between the activities that are occurring and whatever establishment is our focus. And sometimes it's difficult to establish that link. But one of the things that help us is having as much of a paper trail as possible to document some of those incidents that are occurring.
Noted. We certainly try to do that. I think we have, Carolyn, you have another question?
Well, I have a number, but I'm just going to ask one, and well, actually kind of two. One is when you talked about the cars that are running unattended, I thought that was illegal to begin with. So have you been ticketing those? And the other is sort of related to that, but this may be more of a question for our council members, which is there's a city in Western Massachusetts, might be Springfield, might be another one, that just passed a law banning gas sales to folks driving up on dirt bikes. And I'm not sure if we have a law like that, if that's something that we're enforcing, and if that's something that might also help with the summertime issues of the noise and, you know, some of the issues with the kids riding around on the streets and big clumps and stuff and causing traffic issues and possibly their own safety. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll take the first and I'll take a little bit of the second. And I think Judy may want to weigh in on that second one as well. But in terms of ticketing of the vehicles, yes, we have been. It's sometimes difficult. Sometimes we don't get a chance to intervene until the aftermath, until the vehicles have been stolen or, you know, somebody's, you know, taking the vehicle with a child inside. And so we want to get this education and awareness campaign out so that people don't engage in this behavior at the very outset. And so, but yes, to answer your question, you know, when we had an opportunity to enforce, and we have been, just hasn't been a whole lot so much. As it pertains to the dirt bikes at the gas pumps, again, Judy, I'm sure weigh in on the legislative piece of it, but from an law enforcement perspective, I think we may want to be careful with this because we've had an opportunity to intervene with these dirt bikes and confiscate these dirt bikes once they've stopped to fuel up. And we've had an opportunity to do it without this resulting into a chase and pursuit through our city. So we may want to think that piece through before we look into that, but I'll turn it over to Judy just in case she wants to weigh into the legislative piece of it.
Well, I don't know that there's much more for me to contribute other than to say that the council did pass legislation that allows us to they are allowed to confiscate dirt bikes, but we're also allowed to sell them then rather than return them to the owners. And I think that we increase fines, but A lot has gone on in the last 3 months, and I think that was like 3 months ago, so I'd have to dig out that legislation. And Richard Conti was the drafter of that particular legislation, and essentially the entire council is interested in assisting the police force in addressing these issues. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of cold.
Thank you both.
And thank you, Chief Hawkins. It's been wonderful having you with us here tonight.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here. And I see Luke among other people who are here. And, Luke, we appreciate your partnership. And, John talked a little bit about some of the things we were doing up in the in that area with some of the college kids. And we couldn't have done it without Luke's help and other folks at UAlbany. So thank you for your partnership.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you for everything you and your officers are doing to help keep us safe and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, John, and thank the rest of you. Have a wonderful rest of your meeting, and have a wonderful holiday season, everybody.
Thanks, Chief. You as well.
You're welcome.
So that was nice to have the chief in, an interesting conversation. And now we'll go on with the agenda that we have following that. Tonight, as I think as folks know, is our annual meeting. It is our last meeting of 2021. And we're going to do a number of things at our annual meeting. We have new board members to elect, and we have annual reports to make, although those will be fairly short, I believe. So I think I'm going to start with the election of board members while we have everyone here, because once I start to talk, people could start to leave the Zoom meeting quickly. But, so we want to make sure that we have the maximum people here, and we're very happy to be appointing 4 new members to the board, or to be putting up for election, I should say, 4 new members to the board, and we are also very happy. It's really 3 new members. No, it is 4 new members, but it's also Virginia Hammer, who will be re-upping for another 3-year term. She has been around for more than a decade, has been president, and we're very glad she is re-upping. But I also want to note the 2 board members who are stepping down, having fulfilled their terms. One is John Hantner, who I believe has been around for every year that Virginia has been with PHNA, well over a decade. And he is a great light, a great worker, and someone whom we are all going to miss. I know. I hope we're not missing him totally, because I do expect we'll be seeing John at our meetings and elsewhere, and so we'll continue to enjoy that. Jonathan Duda is also stepping down. I do not believe he's on the meeting tonight, but he has been very helpful to Pine Hills for a number of years. I'm not sure how many, probably in the area of 6 or so. He has been very helpful with our communications and technical issues and website work, and we expect to continue working with him. So again, as we say goodbye to these 2 folks as board members, I know that they're going to be continuing to work with us very much. So that said, what I would like to do, and I believe I gave forewarning, but is just a short introduction from the 3 new candidates who are hopefully joining the board with us. And I will go in alphabetical order, which I believe, well, let's see. Well, I'm going to go with the order I put them in there. We'll start with Danielle Melendez, although I think Meeks might be alphabetically first. Danielle, if you could just give a few sentences, let people know who you are, how you came to be hopefully joining the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association board.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Melendez. I am a resident here in Pine Hills. I live on Moore Street, and I am a government relations analyst at Farrell Fritz. It's a government relations firm in Albany. And I grew up in Albany, and I just purchased this house with my husband, Will Sekula. We just got married in April, and we purchased the house in 2019, and it's been a really great experience. The first thing we did was just, we moved here, and Will's not from here, so it was just fun to explore the area, and we just wanted to get to know the neighborhood, and we were actually really excited that we were in one of the oldest neighborhoods in Albany. So that was really exciting for us. At first, we didn't know anything. We were just newbies. And so anyway, so now it's been 3 years, and we've been part of the association since the beginning of that, since we lived here. And it's been really great meeting everybody and learning all the new resources in Albany. And yeah, so it's just been a lot of fun, and we have enjoyed volunteering with you guys and doing stuff like that for the Pine Hills neighborhood cleanups. We do that usually in the spring, so that's been really great to work with Luke and Leah and Wusu, and just everyone has been so kind and welcoming to us, so we always appreciate that. But yeah, and I will put my contact information in the if I can in the comments, or I'll give it to John, just so you can contact me anytime. We're always here for our community, so if you need anything, we'd love to chat or just meet up at a local restaurant. We're very excited to be part of the neighborhood and be part of the association. So if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll give all my contact information to John. You can reach out anytime.
Thanks, Danielle. And I regret to say you can't put your contact information in the chat because for some reason it's been disabled for some time. The Zoom technician who I'd like to fire, who by the way is me, somehow hasn't figured it out. But actually, presuming that you are elected to the board, your contact information will be on our website. So people will be able to click and email you. So you'll be very much connected.
Awesome.
So thank you. I'm going to go now to Jay Meeks for an introduction.
All right. I won't say my name again. You said it for me. But good evening. Nice to meet and be with you all this evening. I moved to Pine Hills in 2017. So at the beginning of the meeting, you probably heard a little back and forth between me and the police chief. So I'm from Southeastern Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, to be precise. And Chief Hawkins was the police chief of the suburb next door to us called Southfield. And so, yeah, so I moved here in 2017 for work. So I work at Skidmore College, and I'm a faculty member in the Department of Education Studies. I would say more, but this meeting is being recorded, and you might blackmail me with the joke I was going to say about that work. But so I've been doing that since 2017. And so I was delighted when I first moved here. I was able to have a conversation with Leah across the street, who lives across the street from me on Myrtle. And she was my city council person. So that was pretty exciting. And interesting, I was telling John this the other day, that I joined the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association, I believe it was this summer, while I was in Detroit. So I was away for the time that COVID was still going on, but I was able to teach remotely. So I managed to find some downtime, and I decided to join the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association from Detroit, Michigan, of all places. So I am very active in my neighborhood association in Detroit. So I still own a house in Detroit, and I go back there in the summers and over breaks. And so I finally found the time to really settle down and make Albany feel more like home and get involved. And so that included getting a puppy. And so we have had an opportunity to explore parts of Albany together. And so I've had a chance to really talk and meet people in Washington Park, but also the Norman's Kill dog park and organic farm. And so I'm really excited to get involved more with the neighborhood, but also the larger city of Albany, and contributing my excitement, enthusiasm, but also belief that there are always opportunities and problems. So I'm excited to, if elected, to join the board to bring my passion for politics, government, and civics overall. I'm a former social studies teacher, so I'm excited to bring that to bear. So nice to meet you all.
Thanks so much, Jay. Nice. And we're excited to have you joining us, we hope, as well. So now next up will be Ronald Zamanski.
Hey, folks. Ronald Zamanski. You can call me Ron. I'm also known as Prince Herman, as an artist and actor. My family has been in Albany for several generations. I live in a house that my family has always lived in, and I intend to stay for the duration. We've been working quite hard on it. I've been involved in quite a few of the neighborhood activities so far, having volunteered for the last several years with the Upper Madison Street Fair. My partner and I are involved in the Upper Madison Promenade. And we recently had an event at the Madison Theater that was very well attended. And I look forward to more activities with the neighborhood.
Was that the Jane event?
Yes.
Oh, I thought
Baby
that was,
Jane.
oh, yes. I am so sad I missed it. I had a friend in town from New York City and we drove by and we saw the marquee. We're like, is this what I think it is? So I hope there will be another opportunity.
We will be planning something else in the spring with Hush Up Sweet Charlotte.
Ah, excellent. Well, thank you, Ron. So let's see, and now we go to Will Sekula.
Hi, everyone. I'm Will Sekula, not to be outdone by Jay. We also have two dogs. You may hear them barking because they're barking right now. But I Danielle's pretty much already introduced me. I don't know what more to add, except I guess I am currently the membership chair of the neighborhood association. And recently we just also created a membership committee. Oh, there he is. So I've been helping with that, but I mean, outside of the neighborhood, which Danielle and I are involved in very heavily, I work for the land bank. So I work a lot throughout Albany, especially in South End, West Hill, with community development and stuff. So bringing that perspective to our neighborhood, I think is something that I am passionate about. So up there.
Thanks so much, Will. And the land bank is a great place to work for and a wonderful new institution we're glad to have operating in this area. So. Now, Virginia, I don't know, you're so well known, but you are on the ballot, so to speak, for board. Would you like to say anything?
Wait a minute.
There you are.
You are muted. Am I muted?
You're not muted.
Yeah, I'm not muted. Well, I just want to say that I have been involved with the neighborhood and the neighborhood association for, I believe, more than 10 years. I don't know how many, and considering my age, it's probably been quite a few years. So, I just continue to work on what we all want, which is maintaining or improving or upgrading the quality of life for our neighborhood. And I don't believe you necessarily have to be on the board, but if you are, you get a greater opportunity to, I believe, have an impact. But I think all of us, I hope, will take part in using See Click Fix and getting involved in whatever way people choose to, in whatever little or more significant ways. And so I'm happy to continue with the board and hope to, can make some contribution here.
Thanks, Virginia.
Thanks.
So I think we're ready to proceed at least with the board election. We have everyone currently on our board, with the exception of Paul Lundberg present. We also have Carol June Washington, Dan Johnson, Kathy and Joe Pingelski, and Doug Bullock, all of whom I believe are members. And Luke, I believe you're an honorary member, and there may be others. So everyone here then can vote on the motion I'm about to make. I would propose that we elect as a slate the 5 persons who are up for election to the board, being Virginia Hammer, Danielle Melendez, Jay Meeks, Ronald H. Zamanski, and Will Sekula. Do I have a second for that motion?
Seconded.
Second.
I think Rick took the photo finish there. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I realize some of you may be muted, but I'm getting a visual on this too. So I will next ask. If
Yeah, I was muted.
Okay.
Me too.
And is anyone opposed? I'm going to go to gallery view just so I can see everyone. Anyone opposed? I am not seeing any. Anyone abstaining? Other than, of course, Paul, who is not here. Luke is abstaining. Were you abstaining, Luke?
Yeah, John, as an institutional member, I'm just going to abstain. Thank you, though. I appreciate the honorary membership.
Oh, well, we're glad you're here. Thank you. Okay, so congratulations to the 4 new members, and to Virginia for returning on the board. And thanks again to John Hammer and to Jonathan Duda. So now we go to the officers. Now, the officers under our bylaws are appointed to 2-year terms. The board members vote on that. In this case, since we have just voted on new board members, those new board members can vote. You are now fully fledged Pine Hills Neighborhood Association board members. Moreover, I do not believe any of the vacating board members, which in this case, Virginia, you only get 1 vote, but you're both a continuing and a new board member. And John Hammer, I think you still have a vote here. We don't have a parliamentarian. So in the absence of that, I think I get to make the call. And since it is still 2021, I think you can definitely vote on this. So for the officers, which are president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, we have 2 old and 2 new. The old are myself, John Clarkson, for president, and Eric Shadow for treasurer. We would like to re-up for 2 more years. And Virginia Hammer is stepping down as secretary, but she, as you know, is continuing on the board and will be very, very much involved. As if I needed to say that, right? We know that, but so she will be quite involved and is definitely a member of the kitchen cabinet. So too is Marilyn Douglas, who is stepping down as vice president. She will be very much involved. And Marilyn and Virginia, by the way, are co-chairs of the Upper Madison group. So, you know, obviously they're still completely involved up to the hilt in Pine Hills and in local civic issues. So there's no change there, but we are very grateful. I am in particular to Leah Golby for stepping up to be vice president. Vice president is a job for which in some ways there are no duties, but what that means is everything is your duty. So, and Leah does that always, and we appreciate it very much. Also, our new secretary would be, provided the board approves, Danielle Melendez, who took up the charge, and we're grateful to that. Secretary is, you know, it's a job where you have to keep records, but you're also involved in everything. So it's a very good place to be. At least that was the spiel I gave her, and she said yes. So we have now a full slate of officers. that I'm going to ask the board, whether they be new or old, and by that I mean newly or recently or long ago elected. And since I'm on the slate, I don't think I should propose the motion, but would anyone like to make a motion on our slate of officers?
I make the motion.
Okay. Who was the second? I didn't quite. Doug. Okay. Oh, Doug, I don't think you can second. Not for this one.
I'll second.
All right. I guess I'm still chairing, so all in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Virginia is opposed. Wait.
Wait a minute. Lowered hand. I thought I raised my hand.
You did raise your hand.
You just can't
Okay.
see it probably on your.
Yeah, so I said I'm in favor.
Oh, okay. The timing was such that for a moment I thought you might be opposed to it. And,
Yeah,
but all right, we'll count it as supporting. So again, I'm looking at the whole field of view. I'm not seeing anyone who is opposed. Any abstentions? Luke abstains again. Okay, well, Leah, Danielle,
Luke's
and
not on the
Eric
board,
and I
so it's
will.
not really relevant, so.
Hmm?
Luke's not
Oh,
on the
that's right.
board, so,
You didn't need to abstain. We revoke your abstention.
Wonderful.
But thank you. And Leah and Danielle, welcome to being officers, and we appreciate your help. So that's the appointment and election housekeeping business. As is traditionally part of our annual meeting, we do annual reports from the president and the treasurer. As I sat down to prepare for this, I realized I pretty much did it orally in September, so I'm not going to repeat it in total, but I'll just very quickly run through what I ran through then. 2021 was a difficult year. We all know that. We're still doing Zoom. We hoped not to be by the end of the year, and I was just a couple of months ago hoping not to be on Zoom in 2022. Now I don't know, but I will repeat again for all who don't know that we are relying on the Albany Public Library, who will be offering us space at the Pine Hills Library when we continue open meetings, to make the call. They are making that call, across the city for all sorts of groups that meet there. And so they will be studying all the directives and rules, and we will know when it is okay to have a meeting there. It could be January, it may not be, but we do hope that it will be sometime early in 2022. In the meantime, we'll have to continue on Zoom. I spoke briefly about the Hudson Avenue parties. We were very grateful for the response of the police department, DGS, building and codes, the mayor's office, and everyone else to that. We hope that we'll be able to stay out of it next year, but the response was very good. We did some advocacy for the Academy Station Post Office, which is still technically an open issue. That office was closed for construction and was to go into the new retail and apartment complex going up on New Scotland Avenue in that same location. In the meantime, a temporary post office has been arranged for at the Rise on Ontario Street, which is within our neighborhood. It is open now. It's a really neat facility. It looks just like an untemporary post office, but the issue is still open. I know it has been pursued by a number of people here. All the neighborhood associations have urged that the New Scotland Avenue or the Academy Station Post Office be restored, but we don't know what's going to happen. Congressman Tonko had a meeting with staff of the Postmaster General, and indeed still hasn't gotten a response. But for the moment, at least, and hopefully for any period where there isn't an Academy Station Post Office, we do have a great new post office on Ontario Street. And so if you didn't know about that, you should. Excuse me? Oh, that was just a stray noise. I thought someone was asking a question. Okay. Another issue that we dealt with this year was the lights in the park. I think as people know, there were
John?
huge. Yep. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I was talking to my husband.
Oh, perhaps you better mute, Virginia.
Yes, I think I'll mute because the cat's driving us nuts. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
John, you're muted.
Oops. Yeah, well, that's too bad. I clicked to mute Virginia and muted myself. So I think everyone knows this history. Our neighborhood association did a resolution saying, in essence, you should address the problems so many people enjoy it. And it was a difficult issue. We knew it was. And the discussions with the city over time led to a compromise where lights in the park would remain for one more year in Washington Park, but move to another location thereafter. So that gave them time to find a new location, which I think was essential for PAL and the programs they offer, which we strongly, strongly support. And we also said, if it comes to be that Lights in the Park is canceled, it would be nice to explore a winter festival or carnival in the park, such as existed in it practically from its construction until around 1970. And that idea, which we were not unique in proposing, has been taken up. So I have been working quite a bit on the winter carnival, which will be on Saturday, December 18th from noon to 4 p.m. It's nascent. It's not going to be huge the first year, but it will have a number of entertainments and festival-like activities, including an ice sculpture demonstration, including some choral music from Albany High School and perhaps other musical things. There will be face painting for children, music, refreshments, and there will also be, from the Washington Park Conservancy, pictures in the history of the winter carnivals in the park over the decades. And so that should be very interesting. So we hope you get a chance to stop by that day. And I'll make a call now. Each neighborhood association involved, and there are 4 of them besides us, is going to be called upon to see if we can provide volunteers for this. I've been working with the other presidents, but we would like 4 more volunteers to help put on the carnival. This would be from, well, perhaps a little before noon, maybe 11 a.m. on that Saturday, December 18th until 4 or 5 p.m. So if people would like to volunteer on that, please contact me. And we need 4, and that's in addition to me, so that's not too big. I hope some of you can join in that. Looking forward, we've been working on a lot this year, but I expect it to be one of our biggest issues is blacktop removal and replacing those strips of blacktop that go between sidewalk and street. Well, they don't go there. They are there very much in our neighborhood and some others. A number of midtown blocks in particular were paved over basically in the late 60s, early 70s. And that doesn't make for a pleasant, convenient neighborhood. It makes for a much hotter neighborhood. It doesn't help calm traffic. It opens up the street much more. And it's really bad from an environmental sense because it creates additional stormwater runoff and just doesn't allow for the absorption of water as green space does. So that will be a major, major focus, already is and will be in the coming year for sure. So I tried not to repeat it all, but I did just about repeat it all, and I may have left some out, but that's big picture what we're working on. So with that, if there are no questions, and I'm not seeing any, I will go to our treasurer, Eric Shadow, for his annual report.
Hey, good evening. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, cool. So yeah, welcome to our annual meeting here. Let me hop back to. So yeah, it's interesting. This year we there was a revamp of the website and an additional source of where people could join using their credit card. So that was one of the bigger changes, and obviously just restarting the website was big. So that was a lot of that was John. I didn't really do a whole lot of that. We just set up the Stripe, which is the system we use to record the credit card payments. So that's good. One of the larger efforts actually was getting our address and straightened out down at Trustco. That took quite a while to a number of visits from several people to sign all the cards and everything. So that was a challenge. And then we recently got our debit card activated. So that was another mini challenge. So we're going to use that for paying for the website and other things like that. So that's what we got that for. Currently, we did receive, currently there's two large amounts of money that we have in our checking account that are for projects. There's $837 for the Madison Park grant that was from a few years ago. And we just received the check for the second grant, in addition, a grant for the mural work. So that will be used going forward to work on that. The major expenses for the year, the website and Zoom costs, things like that. The Elks concerts were $100. The APL movie rental was $460. Canadoos, the Washington Park Conservancy for the Winter Carnival John just mentioned, and then the using PayPal and Stripe they do charge a percentage of the credit card. So that's the major expenses. I broke it down for the income for the year was for the membership was $1,102.75. Some of that was mailed in, some was PayPal and Stripe. So Stripe seemed to be pretty popular for folks to use. So it was maybe easier. We had $449.90 in donations. And for the year, there was $1,419.87 of expenses. So we basically were $132.78 in the green there for the year. So for the so far this year, so there's a little bit left, another month or so. So the expenses basically evened out to for this year seem to be pretty even. So currently in the PayPal, which is almost a second checking account. So how I've been looking at it is $282.66. The Trustco balance at this point is $7,818.28, but that does include the two grants. So the two grants are quite a bit. So we have the funds, the available funds that are we have are $4,813.94. It took a while to get at that, to bring that all together in the last few days, but we got that. So I don't know if there's any questions or.
Yeah, I have a couple. One sort of an observation. I may have mentioned it to you already, Eric. One is we always report the PayPal account separately, and more than likely I'm asking why I don't see why we need the second figure.
I think it's just a place where there's money sitting in a separate account. That's all. I guess that's just my.
Could we combine it?
Yeah. Well, we could, and then more will show up. Yeah. We could definitely move it all to the Trustco account, but then more shows up. And I guess whenever more, as people join or put their either make a donation or re-up their membership, more money will show up. So yeah, we could just move it all.
I think that would make sense. I mean, we don't, for example, keep track of people separately who pay by checks, is put that in a different account and then a different account for credit card Stripe. It just
we could just go ahead and every time there's or once a month move it all. So it's just not it just does add to the confusion. That's probably the easiest thing. So okay. Yep.
And the other two things I wanted to mention, but then I'd ask you to comment on it. We've talked about, and you're planning to sort of to with a group or somehow put together a budget, because what you're reporting is the actual cash, but we don't have the budget. Like many organizations, this is an unusual year because there was a lot of things we didn't spend money on, and yet we continue to collect dues and so forth. So I think as we develop a budget, we should see where we are, and we certainly have some room to invest in some new technology and maybe to reflect some other charitable causes that are important to the organization. Yeah, those were the two comments, thinking about doing a budget long-term and also looking at our relatively flush cash position at the moment. I think, not that I expect us to deal with this tonight, but it's certainly something the board should be looking at in 2022.
Yeah, so looking at, the budget process, I mean, it's so far this year, we're within, we're within 5% of what we spent, we brought in. So in that case, it's good. We'd have to reach back into like 2019 really to get a normal year of expenses so we can, we can certainly do that. And I'll now that I have a good process for understanding where, the money comes in, and it's easy to get access to the different accounts. Yeah, we can work with beyond just the current status. It'd be good to have we'll have to reach back a few years before the last 2 years. So
you and I both joined as officers at a strange time, right?
Well, shortly. Well, I was so I was the secretary before that. So that's, I mean, just diverging here. Yeah, definitely the in-person meetings and that stuff has been very challenging for a lot of people to be locked up, if you will, or not part of the fabric and meeting people. So I think we're all ready to meet in person and things like that when it's
definitely.
Yeah, that's definitely something we all miss.
I think Virginia has her hand up. Virginia?
Yes, I do. Eric, have you considered, when you talk about donations, have you considered connecting those? What I tend to call them is sponsorships. Maybe not all of them are sponsorships, but in terms of the so-called free movie, I mean, it wasn't free to us, it's free to the public, but we did solicit a sponsor for that. So if there's a way to kind of, if you had a spreadsheet, you'd say, well, we put out so much, but we had $100 sponsorship. And I believe that with the Elks concerts, we had some sponsorships for that as well. So I think that either to itemize what you call donations, or in other words, to make it a little clearer that those weren't all total expenses, the $400 that we paid for the movie, because we did get a sponsor for that, or at least partial.
And that might come up if we do meet Munch and More again, because we also get sponsorships for that. So it may be worth at least getting something like that in as a system before that, because that can get really complicated because we have a lot of sponsorships for that. Thank you, or have had. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, you can definitely spend a whole ton of time looking at different numbers and trying to get them all to add up and all that stuff. So yeah, it's important to understand. Because we have to account for the folks, and people want to make sure that we're the information and what we're spending our money on and what's received is proper and good for the community. So yeah, we just definitely, I mean, we could bore everybody to death with spreadsheets for, but yeah, it's something we can maybe we could do a more robust report of breaking down the donations into more subcategories, dues, or the expenses also. So
well, sponsorships are also dedicated money, so that's money that's intended for a specific purpose, whereas a regular donation is for general purpose. So that's the other reason for separating
Right.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's right.
As part of the
right.
the income versus expense of a particular event as well. So.
Right.
Okay, yeah, so we should break each event down, right? Again, it's you know, how much in the weeds do you want to get for, but again, it's important to account for and to understand each piece here. So each piece of the puzzle. So, okay. Yep.
And you know, who says spreadsheets are boring, Eric? I'm not sure I'm going to buy it.
Well, this was approaching my day job. So
okay, yeah, well,
yeah.
that's I hear you there.
You
Brother.
got
I used to hear
10,
you louder
you know,
there.
10 or 12 hours a day chasing minutia like this.
Look,
yeah,
if spreadsheets are boring to death, I remember doing it with calculators. So now I've really dated myself, haven't I? Okay.
Yeah, because did you get out the yeah?
No, just
okay.
But yeah, calculators.
Don,
yeah.
I still do.
Still do? Good heavens. No, I don't use a calculator anymore. I use my phone as a calculator occasionally. But if it's more than 3 numbers, go to a spreadsheet. It's my rule. So I think thank you, Eric. I think we've covered our annual meeting duties at this point. So now we'll go to the committee and officer reports, starting out with Luke Rumsey, the Committee on University and Community Relations. Luke.
Hey, John. Hey, everybody. A few updates on our end. As you can imagine, one of the biggest things that are happening right now on the Albany campus is kind of celebrating our opening of our e-tech building, which for those of you that aren't necessarily in tune with the news that has come out recently, at least, it is our largest instructional building on our uptown campus. It's about 246,000 square feet. So it's big. It's very big. I was in it last week for the first time, and it's a really awesome building. It brings together a lot of our signature research strengths. So if you're thinking weather, if you're thinking climate, if you're thinking emergency preparedness or cybersecurity, they're all under one roof. And really the purpose of that is to allow them to collaborate at an interdisciplinary approach and kind of bring everybody together. We also have the National Weather Service in there. We've got the New York State Mesonet. It really is just a really cool facility. And I hope to, at some point, be able to offer a tour of that building to everybody here. Anybody who would like to come up to campus and tour that facility, I'd like to be able to offer that to each of you, perhaps sometime next semester once our classes are underway and we kind of get people moved into the building. And so, but that's really awesome. Beyond that, we are past the midterm point now and we are approaching Thanksgiving. And so this time of year, we become highly aware of burglaries that are happening in the community. We want to make sure that our students are aware of those potential opportunities for people to go into homes over Thanksgiving break. We know that many of our students on Hudson, on Quail, and Ontario, Morris, Myrtle Yates, Partridge, those areas that traditionally house students will be gone. And so we are very much advertising the Albany Police Department's vacation check program, helping them understand what they have to do in order to burglar proof their homes. As somebody had mentioned, I don't know if it was Carolyn or Leah or Judy, that APD's got their Locked Up campaign going on. And I think that's really cool. We're going to be passing out that literature as well to our students before they depart for Thanksgiving break. We've opened our basketball seasons. Our men and women's seasons are underway. And then the only other update that I wanted to share is we are looking to revive the codes walks that we were doing, that the Albany Police Department was spearheading for a long period of time, much to Joe's credit. And so I do believe that our first walk will be scheduled in December, early December. And the hope is that those will be monthly moving forward to allow us to kind of keep a tabs on landlords and residents in the area that may not necessarily be adhering to code. And so those walks typically include representatives from Building Regulatory Compliance, APD, the Department of General Services, UAlbany, and certainly the Neighborhood Association. And I think that's it.
Any questions for Luke? Thanks, Luke.
One last thing, next meeting of CUCR is December 9th. That'll be our last meeting for the year. And we will be inviting several of the local Common Council members to speak at that meeting. So, and that's it.
Thanks, Luke. More presentation. Public safety. Who would like to go first from the NEU staff?
Hi, everyone. Joe Aquaviva.
Hi, Joe.
So, as you guys all probably heard, there was a shooting, actually a double shooting right on the border of Pine Hills yesterday at Quail in Washington. Unfortunately, students were involved. This is obviously something that's been troublesome for us. We are monitoring it, but it wasn't, random. It was obviously targeted. If you didn't hear about it, I wanted you guys to be aware. We are obviously doing our due diligence to follow up, and hopefully we'll be making arrests shortly. Other than that, the big problem in Pine Hills has been larcenies. We're seeing a real uptick in larcenies lately. That's one of the nice things about that program. Anybody that wants the copy of those flyers that we have, the Lock It Up flyers, there is information on there as well about, locking your car, taking valuables out of your vehicle, not leaving them. They're noticeable. We do have them on, I don't know if they're PDFs or some kind of file like that, but we can send them out electronically. If anybody is interested in disseminating them, we can do that.
Joe, just a quick point of clarification. The shooting that involved high school students, right?
Yes, sir. High school students, 16-year-olds.
Whoa.
Thank you.
A quick clarification on that, Joe. I thought the shootings were reported at Quail and Spring Street, and it was two students, but have you got any details on, what caused it?
Like I said, at this time, it's under investigation. I don't know if we're quite sure of the exact circumstances, but they were targeted due to some of our violence that's been going out through the city. And unfortunately, this is the trend that we're seeing is younger and younger people involved.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay.
Dan, are you going to be saying anything tonight, or Dan Webster?
I don't have anything that we haven't touched on already, but I did speak to a detective that's handling that case with the shooting, and I can't really say anything other than you'd be surprised how silly the reason for the shooting from what we're told so far. Not over anything important. But other than that, that's all I got right now.
Dan, do you know, did that in connection with school release, was that around about the time that school was emptied, or was that after the fact?
And Luke, I think I'm on off mode. Yeah, it happened at like 4:30, 4:45. So that's a good hour after school was over. So I don't know. I mean, it's just right around dark, from what I was told.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
thank you,
Lieutenant. I'll chime in. So Albany High actually releases later now. They released around 3:30, and the incident at 4:03. So about a 30 minutes after.
Thanks, Lieutenant.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll move on to zoning and code enforcement. Leah?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Midtown Pine Hills Committee, Carolyn?
Hey.
Oh,
You're not gonna report on the fact that the USGO is being revised and about to pass the council on December 6th? I mean, I think that that's significant. Just want to make sure we get that in there.
Thanks, Judy. But now she
Yes,
doesn't have to.
that's exciting. Sorry, I forgot about that. I was actually talking to Brad about it today, my bad. And I was praising both of you for your amazing work. So thanks for reminding us, Judy. It's great.
Okay. Thanks, Judy and Leah. Upper Madison Group, Marilyn?
I think you went right over me.
Oh, I did. I got confused because we went back and yeah, I started, but you see, I lost my place.
That's okay. I don't have a lot.
Pine Hills.
We have our last meeting of 2021 on Monday, November 22nd at 6:30, also on Zoom. If anybody's interested, let me know and I can get you a link. Our trash and litter subcommittee is working on developing social media messages. Luke's off-campus ambassadors have handed out messages with their walks this semester. So for next semester, we're hoping to do more social media type stuff, possibly some videos, we're not sure. And they may also work on some programming around addressing trash and litter in the neighborhood. We also, and I need to reach out, I think, to Owusu on this. I noticed that there's at least 1 or 2 signs in the neighborhood around dog waste and fines for dog waste, and I wanted to see if we could figure out the best way to get more signs up and what's involved in that. I think we were waiting for the off-campus ambassadors. We're going to see if they could locate where they are and their routes and when they did their most recent walk. So we'll know more about that on Monday. And because hopefully we can get more awareness into the neighborhood about both litter and addressing dog waste. So that's what's going on with that. With the Trees and Streets Committee, as John mentioned, we're working on trying to get the blacktop up and also hopefully get trees in. As Jay Levine, the forester, mentioned at our last meeting, you know, the trees don't do well if they're surrounded by blacktop. The heat from the blacktop just makes it very hard for their roots to do well and dries them out. So we are hoping to get some more meetings with Joe Coffey of the Water Department and with Jay, where we can sit down and have longer conversations about some next steps. And then with the Madison Park, I know Owusu has reached out to planning. I have not heard anything back from them about starting a process for developing more of a plan for the rest of Madison Park beyond the playground and the basketball court. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Marilyn, Upper Madison?
Well, we're still trying to get our historic marker installed. So far, it hasn't happened, although we've been promised. Our flowers are being put to bed, and we're looking forward to the spring. That's it. Virginia, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I heard from Frank Zioli the other day that there's going to be an RFP going out for the design of the juniors block, because they're starting to work on that. The city next year, they're going to take up all those bricks around the trees and the grates and etc. And apparently there's going to be some kind of a community meeting in the beginning of December to get public input into what we would like to see concerning a design for that block. And I've also been communicating with Price Chopper in terms of trying to get the language that they want so that they're not, you know, they're more cooperative in terms of the promenade and the structures and the painting of the wall. So hopefully I'll be able to get some language from them. That Fraxioli promised to pass on to the Common Council, not the Common Council, the Corp Council. So we have to get their cooperation, the price chopper, in order to make it a lot, in order to expedite the whole promenade design.
Excellent. Membership, newly elected board member Will Sekula.
Hello, everyone. Looks like as of right now, we have in total 96 memberships. And all made sure that all members are up to date in the Google group. So everyone should be in there that's a current member and receiving emails from the association. The membership committee had our another meeting at the beginning of November where we went in more depth on changes to the RAC card. Really our #1 priority right now is creating that RAC card. And we're still on track to have that done in the first half of December for that, the winter fair. And just in general, I mean, we're also focusing on ways to increase our membership and getting more new members by expanding outreach efforts. And we're really thinking like of an all in approach, whether it's by mail, face-to-face conversations, or ways to do outreach efforts through digital means. So it's working pretty well so far. A couple of meetings.
Excellent. Thanks, Will. All right, so now we're to the towards the end of our meeting where we offer all elected officials present the opportunity to speak to us about what's going on. We'll start with Owusu Anani.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Over the past couple of months, it's been budget season in the city, and many of you have probably read about the council trying to get more oversight and say as it relates to some of the federal dollars that came into the city. So I'm happy to report that while it's not what we would like to see as it relates to the oversight that we have, we would like to get more oversight. And in the budget, we were able to come up with a compromise with the mayor where there's going to be a task force that are going to be put together with, I think, 3 from the administration, the treasurer, and 3 of the common council leadership. That's a step in the right direction. But overall in the budget, this year's budget was $189 million. We're going to continue to make improvements to Richfield Park. $130,000 was invested in last year's budget to make some improvements. And I know a lot of people are seeing some of the playground improvements. Next year, we're going to see improvements to the sprinkler pad, also the fencing, a walking path, a welcome to Richfield sign, and also probably paint the old playground. Some neighbors would still like to see the old playground stay intact. So that's going to be some improvements that we're going to make. Year in and year out, we always ask for the state to pay the city our fair share, which is $12.5 million. This year, we're asking for $15 million. With the relationships that I believe the mayor has with the governor and other advocates, I strongly believe that we're going to get the $15 million request in state aid to alleviate the tax burden that so many homeowners face. So I'm excited about that. This year, during the budget, I was proud working with Judy to get $2.6 million in the budget for home improvements and home improvements and home ownership. I'm really proud of that. There was some pushback from the administration and even some people in the leadership, but I believe that the more we have people investing in the city of Albany through home ownership, the better all of us will be, no matter what neighborhood you live in. In this year budget, we also put in funding for 80 new police officers. We have seen and witnessed the uptick in violence across our city. It's unfortunate, even today, there was a homicide on Delaware in Carroll at the Taco Bell, which is really unfortunate that people are resulting in gun violence throughout our city. So while the 80 police officers is going to help, I think we really have to address the root cause of violence, which is lack of education opportunity and economic opportunity. But I am excited to have new officers coming in this year and also next year. In this year's budget, we also have $80 million that's going to be dedicated to street paving and sidewalks. This is a 25% increase from last year's budget. So far, we are seeing some improvements already on South Main between Madison and Park Avenue. There's going to be other sidewalk improvements. There's going to be paving on Park Avenue between West Lawrence and South Main. So look out for some of the street pavings and also sidewalk improvements. And also there's been an increase to summer youth employment. It's very important, especially in these COVID time, in this pandemic, that we get our youth engaged and involved and try to participate in some type of enrichment throughout our city. So I'm glad to see that the mayor continue to fund our award-winning summer youth employment program. And just to end off, there's Iron Cafe, a new coffee shop that just opened on Madison Avenue. We're really excited for that. Please stop by, patronize them, support them. The other day I was there, I had to wait 20 minutes to get some coffee, but that's a sign that it's good coffee because there's quite a few people in line waiting to get some coffee. So the location is at 811 Madison, which is close to Blues by Marie. And then the last thing is there will be a ribbon cutting coming up for Ground Up Cafe. They've been looking to make some improvements to their patio before they had the ribbon cutting. And I believe that they're going to do it this year to close out the year. So that is all the report I have at the moment. Open to any questions or concerns.
Looks like Carolyn, and after that, Virginia.
Is any of the 80 million for paving and sidewalks going toward improvements to Madison Avenue, for instance, more appropriate lighting? And has any further discussion been had about that? And also, is there currently a plan for some of those funds to go toward some of the blacktop and paving issues we may have on Hudson and Hamilton, or has there been any discussion about how they are, how they develop, or if they have a better sense of how they're going to develop their plan for when and where they're going to do what?
I will say, I try to speak to the administration at least once every 2 weeks. As it relates to the blacktops, they are really focused and on equity, and they keep talking about making improvements to West Hill, South, and Arbor Hill first before they venture out to other neighborhoods. I know this is something that is passionate to all of us, and the administration understands and knows that. I'm going to continue advocating, and I will definitely need your continued support in advocating for this improvement. But quite frankly, to be honest, I think the administration would like to address the historically disinvested communities, particularly like West End and South End first, before they move out onto our neighborhood. As it relates to that, but I do have a commitment that next year there will be improvements on Madison between South Lake all the way to Partridge, as it relates to extending the sidewalk, putting extra light in, similar to what happened, and planting more trees, similar to the improvements that were done at New Scotland during the business corridor, which is really booming. And so that is a commitment that I've gotten from the mayor, that next year we're going to get those type of improvements on the Madison, Midtown Pine Hills neighborhood, which is becoming a really vibrant neighborhood. I think right now they only have one storefront that's empty from Quell Street to Ontario. So we would like to see some investment, and the administration has made a commitment to making that improvement next year.
And is that
also,
improvement going all the way up to Partridge? I'm sorry, I missed, I was writing something down and I didn't hear it. From South Lake to Partridge it is, or South Lake to Maine?
So
Well,
it's
Maine
from,
is-
sorry about that, not South Maine, from South Lake to Ontario. And just more recently, they're looking to expand to Partridge. So
Yeah,
Partridge
because that
is
other
not
block
definite. What
needs
is the
help.
definite? Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a definite for South Lake to Ontario. And just more recently, speaking to the mayor's chief of staff, they're looking to expand to Partridge as well, where they're going to have historical lights and more trees planted and just beautify that corridor.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
And then last thing too is I know that, and a few neighbors have reached out to me about this regarding the speed humps. In the city budget this year, the mayor is doing a pilot to have speed humps, $250,000 dedicated to speed humps in the city of Albany. But the mayor is kind of focusing again on this equity agenda with the South End, West End, and Arbor Hill neighborhoods first, and is looking to see how that pilot go and extend out throughout the city. So if there's a street that you are passionate that maybe we need a speed hump, feel free to shoot me an email, text, whatever. Because I know we have some in our neighborhood, particularly Myrtle Avenue or South Lake. Some people think that is a racetrack. So we're gonna try to advocate for some of those streets to have a speed hump. But if you see any other streets that need it, please don't hesitate to reach out.
If I can just jump in for a minute, the amount in the budget for street repairs and sidewalks is $8 million, not 80.
No, I said 8 million, correct.
Right. I think I heard Carolyn say 80, and that's why I wanted to.
Sorry, I thought that's what I heard him say. So I think I was
No,
conflating that with
80
the 80
billion.
police officers. Yeah.
That's like close to half our budget. Well, Joe Akuviva and the rest of the crew won't be too happy about that. No.
Are you through, Judy?
What?
Did you want to say anything else? Because I have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry. I am through asking questions. I would like an opportunity to also talk and supplement, but it's time.
Virginia, do you have a question for Owusu, or is your?
Yeah, I have a question actually for Judy and Owusu, and it doesn't have anything to do with money, but I had, and I think John got an email quite a long time ago from David Pfaff, who's a resident on North Pine. Anyway, he wanted to know if we would ever have such a thing as Friends of Albany Parks. And I know that, I'm pretty sure I heard Owusu mention something like that once, and Judy as well. And is there any prospect that there will be some kind of a program where people might want to join an organization that you can volunteer to help out at a park, clean up, do this, do that. Apparently quite a few places have these kinds of organizations. And whether there was something in the future, like maybe Judy would be working on this after she retires from her council position, because it does seem to be a good idea to make it more sort of a formal kind of thing where you could have a brochure and sign up to volunteer to work in a park and, do whatever you can do to keep it looking good.
I am all for it. I know that in the Lincoln Park, they are building Friends of Lincoln Park organization in the Delaware South End neighborhood. And I see some of the benefits that they're having already. One of the parks that I would love to see something like that dedicated to is Richfield Park. The mayor and advocacy from Leah Goby and other council members and the neighborhood, we are going to receive close to $250,000 invested in Richfield Park. And I think that would be neat to have an organization that's dedicated to the upkeep and just informing the administration of what needs to be done. Richfield Park is going to be, quite frankly, outside of Lincoln Park, is going to be a really, really jam in our neighborhood. So we could have an organization, maybe like Friends of Richfield Park going. I think that's going to be a step in the right direction. We have some benches that's coming in. We have some trees that's coming in. We have new bathrooms, and there's a tennis court over there. So it's quite frankly, it's really a pride and joy of our neighborhood outside of all the other things that happen.
I'm sold on it, Owusu. You don't have to sell. I know it's going to be really great. What I'm trying to find out is if there's any plan for anybody, either in the administration or for Judy or anybody, because I know Judy's interested in the park over by the ball fields, and she was going to be friends of something there. Is there any way that, we as a neighborhood association can try to do something to maybe just start with Richfield Park and to somehow get that more organized or more, make it, in other words, a reality to get a friends group? That's what I'm trying to say. But if there isn't, that's fine. I just was interested.
No, I'm in full support. And I think that if we could start thinking of something during the ribbon cutting, we could put out to some of the neighbors who might be interested. But it wouldn't need a leader. And, with Judy retiring, Judy might be interested since she sent all the recommendations for Richfield Park. And I know her grandson loves to use that park. But yeah.
So in other words, we need somebody.
Yes.
I'd like to catch people up. I don't know if you forgot the history, but there was Judy brought up for Richfield the idea of a friends group, and indeed was reaching out to Pine Hills since we were 501c3, but we didn't really have the bandwidth to take it on. There's Owusu mentioned, I think, Lincoln Park that has a friends group, and Buckingham Pond has a more organized and funded friends group, and of course Washington Park has the Washington Park Conservancy, but I don't believe any of the other parks in the city have a friends group. So one idea that was floated, including by me, was for a friends group that sort of umbrella covered all the parks within the city of Albany and could be a way to help get people to volunteer and to get charitable giving to help out the parks to supplement what the city can do. It's been tried in our neighboring municipality. The town of Bethlehem worked very well there for parks all over town. The idea was discussed at Cana. I brought it up, and it was supported very strongly by Justin Atlas, who is I think he's a deputy commissioner at the Department of Recreation. He also formerly was a resident of the town of Bethlehem and was a member of the board of that friends group. So we talked about the idea. A lot of people liked it, and then some people said, okay, so when are you going to do this, John Clark? So I said, no, I'm sharing an idea. This is not something I'm going to do, thank you. I'm quite overly tasked. And some of the issues we've just tripped across here are kind of the issue. I mean, is the goal to have a friends group for Richfield and for what I refer to as Judy's Park, separate friends group? I mean, anyone can create a friends group for a park, and I think Justin or the folks at Friends of Bethlehem Parks and Recreation could help tell you what you need to do that. The concept for a citywide group, I think, is a good one, but it's hard to find champions for it or someone willing to give all their time to it, because it does take quite a lot of time. The person who started it in Bethlehem is a friend of mine. It grew out of a budget committee we had. She's still trying to get someone to replace her. That was like 7-8 years ago. So it takes a lot of time. It does take dedication, usually of one person to lead it too. So I think we should support either approach. I know that people who have a stake in Richfield and other parks would probably want to help. but I also like the idea of a citywide friends group, were that possible. So just to catch people up on that, but I think, Judy, I'm not going to select your next job for you, but you know, if you tell us what you're thinking.
Thank you.
Can I also just add that I think a citywide friends group would provide more equity, because the other parks that we're talking about, Buckingham, Ridgefield, Washington, less so Lincoln, you know, most of those are in the more the not distressed parts of the city. Yeah. And I think some of the other parts of the city could also use some of that support that an overall friends group could provide. Just pointing out.
So just my 2 cents about this. I was going to form independently, you know, drafted the documents. It's not very complicated, to independently create a Friends of Woodlawn Park. It's not my park. You know, I mean, I know that some people like to attribute certain things to me, but I think anybody who knows me, it's about making the neighborhood and the city better, period.
I apologize, Judy. I wasn't trying to imply this. It's just you have put a tremendous amount of effort into it, which you will not deny.
I did, and I'm a little bit disappointed with the curveball that I was sent, and I'm not going to get into that. So I was thinking about doing that, and out of deference to John's proposal, and also Justin had also talked to me about it even before you did, John, about the idea of a citywide program. I did not pursue that and sort of just informally got people to assist with leaf cleanup so that grass could see the light of day so that it could grow, and assistance with helping me water the new grass seed to make sure that it took, so that we actually wound up with a lawn rather than weeds and what had existed. So I did that informally. My concern throughout has been that I think I can get people in Pine Hills Neighborhood Association to help with maybe clean up of Woodlawn and clean up of Ridgefield Park, and maybe planting some flowers, getting residents and Pine Hills Neighborhood Association to do anything more than a token dedication to showing up in Arbor Hill to work on a park, or Sheridan Hollow to work on a pocket park, or that kind of thing. It's a challenge that I haven't figured out how you motivate people to do that. What I have said to Justin and what I have said to the administration is we undervalue our parks. We need to, you know, if the burden is going to be shared, why not share it in the way of increasing taxes in order to cover some of those costs, to make sure that there is equity throughout the city. You know, and when I lived in Sheridan Hollow, there was a pocket park of sorts with a spray pad that I helped work on, and Mayor Whalen was opposed to, you know, converting vacant lots into another pocket park because they don't have the resources to continue to maintain all of these. But I overall, I think that it's a shame what we do with regard to letting our parks not be kept up as well as they should be. They should be the shining stars of all of our neighborhoods. So I think it is a kind of a Herculean effort to have somebody organize a program and fight the battle to the extent that I see the need to fight the battle. Because while I appreciate the fact that the mayor is going through the city and giving $150,000 here and $250,000 there to provide new playground equipment, which is fun and more engaging, there's still issues with regard to weeds growing and it not being really landscape. I mean, there's a place for natural growth and weeds, but then there's a place where, along fences and that kind of thing, and next to light posts. And
Judy, one, I agree with you, but two, I want to remind you that the overall time consideration, we're running fairly late. Is this part of your regular report? Yes, okay. But I agree.
I will. No, I'm just trying to answer the question, and and I'm sorry, Lynn. I'm glad to talk to people more about, people who are interested in that, more about what approach is going to be most effective, because that's ultimately what we want.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're at an end. I don't see.
Well, John, Owusu got, those were questions for in response.
All right. So
Owusu,
we won't get, you get 5 minutes from starting.
All right. I do want to fill people in on a couple of things that I think are relevant here. I do want people to know that there's a sidewalk survey that the city has been engaging in, and you might have seen people walking around and actually talking about, taking notes about the humps and the blacktop, et cetera. So that is being done throughout the entire city, and they're hoping to be done in the not too distant future. I've heard reports of them being in some places in my neighborhood taking notes. And yes, there is a commitment to be addressing the blacktop and more funding available for that. But it's not going to happen all at once, just like repaving streets. We did not reduce. I want to make it clear to everybody, we did not reduce anything in the way of funding in the 2022 budget. And there is funding in there for an arborist, in addition to the city forester, more of a commitment to reforesting our city. Thrilled to see that. 14 new DGS workers to deal with trash pickup and other maintenance issues in the city. We needed that. There are 3 new positions in the APD. There's also a sustainability manager now, in addition to an energy manager, and that person is also going to be overseeing what we're doing with regard to remaining funds in our bond ordinance that we passed for new streetlights. And I'm advocating for some additional decorative lighting along New Scotland Avenue, because PHNA has made that a priority. Just want to make sure that you're aware of the fact that there is some funding left in that bond. When we amended the budget, when the Common Council amended the budget, main things that minor adjustments really, with regard to funding, is we filled out the Community Police Review Board funding, because that ordinance passed. 1% of the police budget is the equivalent of what they are required to have in the budget. So we added $314,000 for that. $75,000 to do a community center study for the South End. And some of you will be interested in, we did add some additional funding for the Sustainability Committee for composting. Supporting composting in the city will allow the desires to have some composting drop-off sites within certain neighborhoods and to have some staffing for that, along with for city events, for there to be people who are helping ensure that there is composting. We made some adjustments at the administration's request for retirement. There's some salary adjustments that they are asking us to make that we need to do. Per the direction from the city, we increased sales tax. So I want to make it clear that the money that Owusu talked about with regard to the $2.6 million for housing and home ownership and repairs, primarily for disinvested, communities that have had disinvestment, and trying to encourage home ownership. It's something that the council has talked about in the different committees that I have been on. And that's not really new money. That was $25 million was allocated for grants from the ARPA funding. And as a result of the task force report, which we firmed up some of that language when we adopted this, and we said, of the 8 million that is allocated for housing, we want to see 2.6 million of that definitely go for this kind of program at a minimum. It's not a maximum, it's a minimum. And then the other thing we did is we made sure that any funding remaining after the $25 million and after the essentially 12.5 million that was already allocated in the 2022 budget, and the mayor already allocated otherwise in 2021 for some raises, et cetera, that that the remaining funding will also have to come to the Common Council for an expenditure approval, and detailed in the same way that we have been doing for many years for our community development block grant funding. There is, we also, in order to make sure that there was not, the mayor attempted to have $16 million extra applied towards revenue replacement in for the 2020 budget. That we reduced that to $8.6 million. We finished out the 2020 budget still with a fund balance of $10.2 million. We only had a budget gap of $4 million after applying some debt reserve money. We took care of that by applying some of the fund balance to that deficit at that time. So we still finished with a $10.2 million fund balance. And so with the money that we're appropriating, that will go up to essentially 18 million, which is the highest it's been since I've been on the council. I understand the mayor has an issue with us having reduced her request. Could you hold on just 1 minute? I'm sorry, my husband just returned. So instead of having a $26 million fund balance, we will have an $18 million fund balance, which is about 10% of our budget, which has basically been the goal that we have talked about. With regard to the mayor's press release, talking about us needing to potentially cut staff and cut services, that's going to affect our, somehow or other, this is going to affect our bond ratings, etc. The solution is very simple. Come to the Common Council, explain to us what you need transferred, what you need to spend funds on. That's all. That's all this is about. The people who, the 12 members who voted on this are mystified by the mayor's response, because we don't, if there really is a need to cut staff, the council is going to approve an additional appropriation. But we approved everything that was in the 2022 budget. So I'd be glad to take any questions.
Like Carol June Washington has a question for you. Carol?
Yeah, actually, I don't have a question as much as I want to compliment Judy for the work that she's done on the budget. And since this will be her last meeting, I guess, before the next council person comes in, I do want us to acknowledge the work that she's done and thank her for her service over the past years, because she's done yeoman's work on a number of issues, and we really will miss her in the council as a representative.
Thank you.
I agree.
I'm gonna second or third that. I don't know, this might be a good walk-off moment. Judy, what do you think? but it is sincere. I think a lot of folks are going to miss you. And
I-
your energy, your intelligence, what you bring to it are just wonderful to see.
So I have been working with Megan over the last several months, bringing her up to speed on various issues. And she actually is getting some emails from constituents already and looping me in. I'm not going anyplace. I'm glad to assist. But I do look forward to more evenings with my husband and more weekends with my grandchild and children.
You deserve it. Congratulations.
Thanks, Judy.
So I'm going to wish everyone happy holidays, and we'll be seeing you in the new year. For the board members, both new and have been around for a while, it's bad to say new and old, right? But I'll be in touch shortly. I think we might get together for a meeting. It could be put off till January, but we have a lot of things to talk about. And I am really excited to have the new officers and board members that are stepping up, and we are so very glad you're here to help us out. So thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you,
you.
Judy. Thank you,
Thanks, Judy.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
All right,
Judy.
guys.
Take
Make
care.
sure I continue to get the notices. I think I'm still a member. I think I paid my dues, so